Hello, this is Kenny Lee Burgess, and I'd like to welcome you to the Blues Kitchen for some coffee. Now, what I'd like to talk about a little bit is some ideas that I have that hopefully will help you and give you new ideas yourself. Now, in design, there's this saying, form follows function. So what that really means is, like, for instance, you have a horse and you say, wow, wouldn't it be great if we can move faster than a horse? So that's a function. You make a car, So the idea is that you want to do something, so then you make that form. And that's exactly how the guitar works. So standard guitar uses what's called a compensated tuning, which means the guitar can play in all 12 keys. And this is important, say for classical music and jazz. But blues and folk, we don't really use the 12 keys. But how do they do that? How do they make it possible to play in all 12 keys? Well, they use what's called caged. It's a movable chord system. So they take those open position chords. Open position means they use open strings. So they have to make them movable. So they make a bar chord. So your finger now becomes the movable nut, and the chord is behind it. So what happens is, all along the fingerboard now, you have 4 different versions of that same, say for instance, C chord. But interesting enough, not only does, say, the pitch go up, so if I play the C chord here, or I play a different chord here, that's the C, it's going to be higher in pitch. Not only does the pitch go up, but the notes are stacked in different orders. So when you strum it, it has a different voice. So that's important too. So the C chord that you play here, yeah, it has all the notes. It is a C chord, but the C chord you play higher up the neck and you strum it, same notes, but it sounds a little bit different because of the voice. So that gives you options. Now one of the interesting things about this is, you would say, well, why would you use an open tuning? What's the point of that? Well, again, the notes are organized in different ways. So you're going to arrange a song differently. So an experiment, some experiments, I don't know if you play standard guitar, but some experiments would be things like this. If you play a song that's in the key of C, and mostly it's played up here by the headstock, the open positions, try to rearrange the song using these inversions higher up the neck. It's going to give you new ideas. Another thing, to take it even a step further, would take a song that you can play in C and try to arrange it in the key of E. Now you're going to find out really quickly how challenging this is to do, because it's impossible to get like a perfect note for note arrangement of it. Usually you're going to make a different arrangement. It's going to be the same song, but it's going to be arranged a little bit different. It's going to be embellished a little bit different. But that's the whole point. That's really the whole point of this, is that, you don't really want to sound the same. There's many different ways to play a song. Now, to talk about the open tuning a little bit, if you think about it for a minute, when you're tuned, I usually tune down to open D, but a lot of people will tune up in Vastapol key of E. That guitar is tuned to the exact E chord in standard. So E, B, E, G sharp, B, E is just like holding the chord. So you can see what that does for us. Now we have the chord. We could play around with all the notes. So open tunings can be, you can't play in different keys in, say, open D, but they tend to work better in that key. Kind of like the harmonicas. Those little harmonicas are called diatonic harmonicas. So which means is they play that major scale. So if you have a harp in C, it's made to play C. Not to say you can't play other keys, but it works out better. And the same thing with open D. You tune to open D and you play a song in open D. And interesting enough, you're really exploring a key of music in really deeply. I mean, because you're looking at how you can play all those notes you need over the entire fingerboard. So the reason I'm kind of telling you this is I want you to think outside of the box, because theory is not a bad thing. Simply, if you're tuning your guitar a certain way, I'm tuning this to an A and D, you're already using theory. An E chord. and you're playing blues and you're using 3 chords, and you said, oh, it's in the key of E. What's the 3 chords? E, A, B. You're already using theory. So the next thing is just to take it further and further and further, a little bit down the road. But the theory that I use is quite rudimentary. Blues is not, that's the beauty of blues. It's fundamental theory. And that's why everybody plays the blues. The other point about the blues is that rural old-time sound. Why it sounds that way is because we target, we rely heavily on these 5 tones, the pentatonic minor scale. So you're not playing the major scale. You're really playing heavily on these notes. Not to say that's the only note you can play, and that's what hopefully I'm going to talk about. But you'll see that if you start to embellish it too much, it's going to sound too jazzy, too sophisticated, too uptown, which then it won't sound like the rural blues anymore. So, it's kind of interesting how that works, that really works out. So, you can really get, into the blues on a fundamental level, because it's like, like water, like maybe finger painting, in 5 colors, it's not heavily technical. Not to say that you don't need skills and that, you can't develop it, but it's a lot different than, say, very sophisticated jazz arrangements or classical guitar arrangements. So in the next clips to follow, I'm going to we're going to break the guitar down further, and this will inspire you to then understand that, here's one last little tip. Take a song that you know how to play and deconstruct it. What chords are they? Why do these notes work with these chords? It's really a great practice. And I'll say one last thing. Originally, I learned to play the blues in standard. And then when I got interested in open tunings in the slide, I took songs like Mississippi Blues, which I played in standard, and I looked for it. I rearranged it on open tuning. I did it in Spanish tuning. You can do it in vastable tuning too. But it was a great study, and it never ends. Your first attempts, I have to encourage you, your first attempts of doing things like this, it's going to be challenging. But if you study, if you take some lessons are always good. If you have a teacher and you say, this is what I would like to do, I'm sure the teacher will help you in that direction. So I hope you like this presentation. See you in a minute.